Welcome to the Common Geeking Program, a book club podcast where each week 3 of us read up on a topic and discuss it from geeky and somewhat nerdy perspectives. Ooh. This week, I'm your host, Ryan Mossbarger, and we will be discussing The Good Place. And specifically with that, the concept of the joy from the unknown, the joy from the unknown. I'm joined by 2 people, each of whom has selected a domain they think connects to our topic and theme this week. They are...
Hi, I'm Taimul Chaudhary, or Chowder, whichever you prefer, and I will be repping Undertale/Deltarune.
And my name is Jeff Leavitt, and this week I'm going to be repping Adventure Time with Finn and Jake. That is the full title of the show, right? It's not just Adventure Time?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Ryan, are we doing the joy from the unknown or the joy from the unexpected?
Same difference.
Is it?
Yeah, unexpected,
I feel like
unknown.
That's super different.
I think, in my mind, they're pretty similar. I have written down Joy of the Unknown, but Joy of the Unexpected, I think, also works out pretty well.
Joy from the Unexpected is what you told us originally.
Yeah, Joy from the Unexpected also works.
I'm good with either of those things. I just have to pick a path, you know what I mean? I think Adventure Time works for either, but...
When I probably wrote this up, I was thinking that they were the same, but I could see how somebody might think they're a little different.
Yeah. The unknown is like, the joy from things that you are have been not made aware of yet, whereas joy from the unexpected is like the joy from things taking unexpected turns,
unknown turns.
That's not the same, right?
To me, it is. So we're going to start by summarizing our topic.
That's like if you don't know what 1 + 1 is, and you're like, I wonder what that answer is, versus if you think that 1 + 1 = 5. And then you find out that it's something else. Those are very different. I don't know why I picked 1 + 1 as my example, but...
Yeah, that's a weird one. But okay, we will go with the joy from the unexpected, even though, honestly, it could be the unknown. I don't know.
Either way, okay.
Either way. We're going to start by summarizing our topic and domains before we openly discuss. Finally, we will close with a competitive rating section to determine who best contributed. So I'm watching you guys like a hawk, and whether today's topic was enjoyable... Or at least, for Good Place, I'll say whether today's topic is delightful. Because I think it's delightful. So now let's get started with the topic at hand. Before we begin, just want to say real quick, if you have not seen The Good Place, it is a spoiler-heavy show. A lot of, I think, the capstone for the season is... There's a lot of spoiler stuff, a lot of references, a lot of callbacks, and if you don't want anything spoiled, just go ahead and watch the first season. We're going to try and keep it to the first season. We will wait here until you get back. All right, okay, it's boring. I'm sorry, that was a bad idea. That was too long. It's 13 episodes. That's my bad. All right, so let's get on with the kind of summary of the topic. So, The Good Place is a fantasy comedy series on NBC that started in 2016. The general idea of the show is that according to how you act in life, you are assigned or deducted points by various and sundry metaphysical beings.
Maybe this is not the exact right place to do it, but I went and rewatched the first half of the first episode. To get that list that Michael throws up on the screen.
It's real funny.
I kept the list and I wrote it all down. So if we want to throw that in there and then edit some of it out later at some point, I've got it up and available.
Yeah, maybe we should do that. Would that be a post-edit type thing, or should we talk about it now?
I'll read them all, and then the editor can decide which are the funny ones.
Editor's note: I'm leaving it all in.
So they had a bunch of good things and bad things listed. Right after that, they showed a bunch more good things from one specific person. So I'll start with just the general ones. The good things were eat a sandwich, hug a friend, plant baobab tree in Madagascar. I don't know.
Yeah, that's the big dumb looking trees that are like they're like chode looking. They're very thick but not very tall. Baobab?
How do you pronounce that? Baobab?
Baobab, okay. I think.
Save a child from drowning, pet a lamb. Politely tolerate stranger recounting New Yorker article at cocktail party. Fix broken tricycle for child who is indifferent to tricycles. Fix broken tricycle for child who loves tricycles. End slavery. Remain loyal to Cleveland Browns. Remember sister's birthday. Scratch elbow? Step carefully over flower bed. maintain composure in line at water park in Houston, sing to a child, purify water source, in parentheses, village, and then it does pop greater than 250? Oh,
yeah, population greater.
Oh, I see. Okay, I didn't understand that till reading that aloud just now. And then for the general bad things, there was buy a trashy magazine, stiff a waitress, use Facebook as a verb, disturb coral reef with a flipper, be commissioner of professional football league, in parentheses, American, poison a river, use the term bro code, rev a motorcycle, steal copper wiring from decommissioned military base, tell a woman to, quote, smile, commit genocide, ruin opera with boorish behavior, root for New York Yankees, harassment, parentheses, sexual, blow nose by pressing one nostril down and exhaling, fail to disclose camel illness when selling camel, overstate personal connection to tragedy that has nothing to do with you.
that one's good.
And there's another here. I'll say them just for posterity's sake. But then it lives like one specific person's like all the good things that she's done, and they're pretty stupid as well.
Like, a lot of the humor in The Good Place is just like, oh yeah, that mundane thing is evil and sinful. Like, paying money for a, Red Hot Chili Peppers concert.
Yeah.
That'll get you to the bad place.
Also, being from Florida.
That was so funny. When they're trying to figure... Well, we'll get into it. But anyway, I don't need to do the rest of the list. It's not that exciting. But anyway.
But yeah, so each one of those actions, good or bad, either or add points to your total score or deduct points from your total score. And depending on the tally these various metaphysical beings make, you are either assigned to the, quote, good place or the, quote, bad place.
So, heaven and hell.
Cool. There's a hierarchy of like how, like ending slavery gave you like a shit ton of points, and eating a sandwich gave you like 2 points.
1. Yeah. So it avoids, it kind of avoids the whole religion thing pretty quickly in the beginning. Basically, they come out and say Michael, who is the supposed architect of this good place neighborhood, kind of says that every religion got about 5% right, and that 5% right is if you do good things, you will end up going to the good place, and if you do bad things, you will probably end up going to the bad place.
Although, I guess I haven't watched more of the show, but there really doesn't seem to be a whole lot more to it than that.
Yeah, they haven't.
But then he says the thing that there was one guy who got like stoned after work one day and
got
just
like
guessed 92% right.
Yeah. And he has a picture.
So a framed picture of him at his wall.
So funny story. That's just a writer's random friend that took like kind of a corny 80s picture of himself a while back. And they're like, oh, we'll just use this image. It's kind of funny. So when
that's really funny.
Writer's friend came to the set, he was immediately like swarmed with people. He's not famous at all. He was like swarmed by like all the stars of the show being like, oh my God, it's you. Because they've been staring at that picture for like a year at this point. So he's kind of like a famous figure to them, even though he has nothing to do with the show at all.
That's really funny.
Not nothing. He said it was very weird to have like Kristen Bell like come up to him and be like, oh my God, it's you.
So yeah, the show.
And Ted Danson was like, he like ran up to him and gave him a hug.
That's really funny.
Because it was in Ted Danson, who plays Michael's office. But yeah, so they're assigned the show centers, at least at first, around Kristen Bell's character, also who's known as Eleanor Shellstrop, who seemingly by mistake was assigned to the good place, even though by all accounts, even her own, she is described as Arizona baked trash.
Yeah, she's awful.
Yeah, she's pretty awful. It shows, and especially in the first season, they do a lot of flashbacks to what she was like when she was alive, and there's not a whole lot of good she did. And it follows her misadventures and attempts to stay in the good place and kind of avoid detection, and also become a better person. At first, and we'll kind of go back
with the help of a fellow good place person who, as we know,
Chidi,
Chidi, an ethics professor who is just like the nerdiest motherfucker there ever lived.
Yeah, he's great.
His life is racked with the philosophical questions of, is it more philosophically sound to get soup or to get a sandwich? That sort of thing. Like, he can't make decisions because he is stunted by the philosophical nature of like, it shows him as a child at a certain point in the first season, him like trying to pick somebody to join his team.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, oh, should I pick a girl for like equality reasons? Or should I pick a man? Because that is also in its way like, I shouldn't pick the girl because like she is a girl. I should pick her on merit. So
I
like,
feel like that's kind of imposed upon him like halfway through the season though. Like rewatching even some of it, like he doesn't really act that way at first, you know?
Well,
like there's one episode where they decide that he's really indecisive, and then from there he's like really indecisive for the rest of the show. But like in the first half of the season, he's not really that indecisive.
that's also kind of that could be something they tonally shift because they really like the guy that plays him, and maybe that's a little piece of him. But also the show kind of does this little twist where you think it's going to be all about Kristen Bell's character, Eleanor Shellstrop, and then it slowly broadens out and it becomes about this group of 4 people who like one is Tahani, one's Chidi, one is Eleanor, and the other one is Jason.
I love Jason.
You mean Jihanyu?
Yeah,
Jihanyu, yeah.
Jihanyu, or better known as Jason. So I think that could be
And
potentially.
it also focuses on Michael and Janet
Michael
a little
and
bit
Janet.
too.
I mean, should we be calling him Jason or Jihanyu? At least during this early part, because
we'll say at the beginning Jihanyu.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
That is
I
a
think
spoiler.
that could the kind of reticence of like applying his flaws could be to kind of the way they slowly open up the flower that is the good place. They make you think it's going to be a singular thing between Ted Danson and Kristen Bell, like them, like a lot of back and forth between them, and then it opens up on Chidi, and then it opens up on Tahani and Jason. But we'll discuss this more in the discussion. We're getting off the main road of the topic summary. I first saw the series on Netflix a few months ago. I was really bored on like a Thursday night. There was nothing on, everything. And I was really tired of like rewatching Parks and Rec and other stuff. So I just kind of Googled good shows to watch on Netflix. And I want to say like number 3 on the list was The Good Place. And it said, oh, from the creator of Parks and Rec and writer of The Office, blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, I'll start it. And like the first episode, I wasn't sure. I was a little confused by the premise. I liked it. And I was like, I'll give it one more shot. And then I watched another one. And then I watched another one. And then I watched another one. And then before...
It's got, its tone is very, it's got dark humor, but it's also very,
It's delightful.
The word I was going to use is... I can't remember it. I used a word...
sitcom-y in a way.
Yeah,
You know?
it is in a way.
Yeah, I was going to say... I keep saying I was going to say, but I don't know what I was going to say yet, because I can't remember the word that I was thinking. It's very,
Sardonic?
It's a little bit surreal.
Yeah, no, it's definitely surreal. It's a fantasy comedy to its core.
Our best genre I could fit into is magical realism. Like, it's about the mundane world in a sense, but it's got these fantastical elements that are in this mundane world of sorts.
Yeah, so like kind of going back before I knew it, it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I was just kind of like on I think episode 10 or 11, and I just remember like, oh, it's just another hour. What's 2 o'clock if I wake up at 7 a.m. in the morning? Like it doesn't. And then I forced myself to go to bed. But I was just like, before I knew it, I was like, I really liked this show and I wanted to watch more of it. And I was very happy to find out that like the second season was going to be coming to Netflix, and that they were in the process. They were only a month or 2 away from start airing the 3rd season on NBC. So I got like really excited about this show. So the next day I started looking into it a little bit heavier. And the show creator, some of you may know him. His name is Michael Schur. He was the guy that played Mose in The Office. He was Dwight's cousin, I believe.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Those 2 well-known, well-recognizable characters.
Well, no, Dwight is super recognizable.
Yeah, but not his cousin.
No, his cousin is too. He's in a decent amount. But he was also a writer. He was kind of just a bit actor occasionally when they needed somebody to be there, but he was also one of the head writers or something like that.
Gotcha.
He is the show creator / probably head writer for Parks and Rec, and he created Brooklyn Nine-Nine, 2 of my all-time favorite shows.
When you said Brooklyn Nine-Nine, I'm like, okay, I'm probably going to like this show because I love Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
And he got the idea for the show because he realized for like the past 10 years that in one way or another he'd been doing office comedies. Like Parks and Rec is kind of an office comedy. The Office, of course, is an office comedy. And then Brooklyn Nine-Nine, it's different, but it's still kind of focused around the police precinct in their office. And it kind of grew out of this idea that or kind of game he'd been playing when he was stuck in LA traffic. Whenever somebody would like let him merge into traffic without being a butthole about it, be like, "Oh, good for you, like plus 10 points." And if somebody cut him off, he'd be like, "Oh no, that's naughty. That's minus 20." And like he started like focusing on that game. It's like, why? Like, does that make sense? Like, what if that was how, metaphysically speaking, the world worked? You were given points for doing good things. And like given bad points for doing bad things, but not just like necessarily bad things like murdering people, but also just making life inconvenient for other people.
Just mediocre things.
Being mediocre is just as evil.
Dickishness.
So he kind of grew on this story. He'd ruminate it for a while, and by the time Brooklyn Nine-Nine came out and Parks and Rec was wrapping up, everybody wanted a show from him. NBC was like, blank check, do whatever you want, even, no matter how weird it is, we will follow through on it. And he's like, oh, no matter how weird it is, because I've got a really weird concept for a show. And they rolled with it, surprisingly. He was a little bit surprised about it, but it worked. I think it works really well. I love this show for a bunch of reasons. The cast is really cool. I think they have great chemistry.
Yeah.
The premise is super original. I can't think of really any show that has a similar premise as this show in kind of the way that it attacks some of these metaphysical questions using philosophy in real life.
It wouldn't exactly be the first time that like someone depicted like heaven and hell as just, and like all that work for them as bureaucratic as hell, you know? I mean, I guess Good Omens is...
I've seen a number of things that... Because it's like, it's not... You know, I think that it paints itself as being like a really vast departure from the heaven and hell idea, but it's like, it's not really that original in the way that it depicts...
Well, that's not original. What I'm talking about, the originality, is kind of focusing in on the characters and making comedy from philosophical concepts.
Okay,
that's fair.
Making hay from things like the trolley problem.
Uh-huh.
I think they did that's probably the best explanation of the trolley problem I've ever heard.
Like those were my favorite parts in the show, is the times that it would take like the, you know, philosophical ethics problems and like deconstruct them and kind of poke fun at them at the same time.
What episode was the trolley problem again? Because I'm pretty sure that's a season 2 episode, isn't it?
Oh, that might be a season 2. So I didn't spoil anything, but I didn't give away but there is something about a trolley problem in the second season. But some of the other questions they have in the first season, I think they poke a lot of holes in like the categorical imperative, talk about deontism, and
we talked about Eleanor and Chidi. Do we want to talk about Jason and Sahani? What's her name? Tahani.
We'll get into. I got like a brief little summary, and then we'll kind of dig into them a little bit, maybe in the discussion.
Okay.
Word.
But yeah, like I was saying, I really like the show. I compare it to Lost in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
but it's fun, good, and actually makes sense. Lost fanboys get at me. Because Lost didn't make sense. There's been many interviews with the creators of Lost who are like, yeah, after the second season, we just started writing random shit, and whatever stuck on the wall, we just went with.
Listen, I'm not gonna argue for or against the sense making of Lost, but I think that there are a few instances in which this show doesn't make any fucking sense either.
But it doesn't make sense in a fun way where like it's obvious that it doesn't make sense and it's not going to matter to the plot in the future. Like, they can hand-wave stuff. Oh, yeah, it's just whatever. That's how the universe works. But in Lost, they lead you to believe that it is a must-needed secret that is key to the next part of the story, and it never comes back again.
That does happen occasionally.
Bear. What does the polar bear mean? Nobody knows what the polar bear means.
Like the twist in The Good Place, you know, actually works with the themes it's working with, whereas Lost, it's just a twist for the sake of having a twist. That's my feeling on it.
And there is this show is kind of built around a central twist that I think is probably one of the best twists in modern television. There's not been many other times I feel like that I've been super surprised by the direction of a show. This one completely blew my mind apart.
I was pretty fucking bored when it happened. I'm like, oh my God.
And listening to interviews,
Really?
and there is a Good Place podcast that kind of goes over it. Listening to what people were saying before it, like even the cast didn't know until a certain point. I think the only person that knew was Ted Danson and Kristen Bell of the cast. They told them the rest of the cast maybe 2 episodes before it happened. So like if you look back and you listen to how they kind of set up everything to make it seem very realistic, you start noticing all these things. It's like, oh, why does Michael never have any scenes really by himself? There's always somebody else in the room with him. And you kind of like go back. It's like, oh, and you start looking back. It's like, yeah, it doesn't make sense why they would always be kind of like in these awkward situations if they were really in the good place. And it just kind of builds on itself. But the podcast I listen to, it's by Mark Evan Jackson, who is also known, who's the cosmic judge in the show Sean, and and also plays Captain Holt's husband in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. The premise was so wacky that when he showed up on set and was given the 20-minute pitch by Michael Schur, his first reaction of when Michael ended was, "They let you make this show? They gave you money?"
That's funny.
And yeah, it's crazy how something so weird and esoteric kind of popped into something real, and it seems to be working.
Should we reveal the twist or no?
Editor's note, you are about to hear a massive spoiler for The Good Place, Season 1 and beyond. This will be discussed throughout the rest of the episode. You are forewarned. Please enjoy.
Oh yeah, and the season-ending twist is that Eleanor has a brainwave and realizes that they are not, in fact, in the good place. They are all in the bad place.
Yeah, and it turns out everyone in their neighborhood, besides the 4 of them, is actually
demons
fake
or whatever. Yeah, kinda.
Yeah.
Well, I'll work to make people in the bad place miserable, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that pretty much wraps up my summary.
I mean,
but yeah.
Spoiler alert, I guess.
Yeah, spoiler alert.
Yeah, we gave it in the intro.
Yeah, hopefully
we'll play it like 5 times. There's a little sound cue
it's still
for
good,
it.
even if it's ruined, because I've rewatched segments of it and it's still funny. But that's the end of my topic summary. How about we move on to those big boy domains, where our representatives get to summarize what they have brought to the table.
Okay. Hello. I'm...
Oh, sorry, yeah. First up is Chowder.
Hi. Hello.
Hi, Chowder.
So, I'm going to be talking about Undertale and Deltarune. Undertale is a video game made by Toby Fox. It was released on September 15, 2015. It's a RPG that has a unique gimmick in that, well, 2 distinct gimmicks. One is that during the battle system, there'll be like a sort of a bullet hell kind of shooter thing whenever you're attacked, so you can avoid damage by like dodging, actually like controlling a cursor and like dodging attacks. And also that it's a game where you can choose to fight everyone you meet, or you can try to be peaceful and try to solve the problem or solve combat by just talking to the enemy, or just doing stuff in battle that'll end the problem peacefully. It's hard to talk about Undertale because it's like a game that really plays on your expectations. It plays a lot with the tropes of video games, like how video games expect you to fight everything under the sun, which it uses that to create a story about consequences and choice, and it's really good. So I'm going to try to avoid spoiling as much as possible, but it is kind of hard to talk about it. And the other thing, and I want to talk about sort of sequel to Undertale. Deltarune has the same characters as Undertale, but they are in an alternate universe kind of thing so it doesn't really have anything, it doesn't really continue on or proceed any kind of story in Undertale. So the thing about Deltarune is that right now there's only 1 chapter. It's like a sort of teaser that Toby Fox released very recently. Like October 31st, he released like the first chapter of Deltarune, and like nobody saw it coming. Like, I think it was like the day before it came out, he was like, come back in 24 hours and you will see something. And we come back in 24 hours, we open up like this website, and it's like, oh, okay, a survey program. I guess he wants our opinions on something. We open it up, it's a 3-hour fucking game.
It's actually super cool. I didn't know that.
That is unexpected.
It was free too?
Yeah, it was free.
That's so great.
Yeah. It's like a tease. It's a teaser. So there's more that'll come in a couple of years. But yeah, so
could you like re-enter it though, or were you just like, oh, I'm about to do this 20-minute survey? Oh God, I've got to spend 3 hours.
Well, no. You can save in the game, so it's not like you have to do the whole game in one sitting.
It's like, haha, I tricked you.
Gotcha, nerds.
Yeah, no, but yeah.
You're like, thank you, this is great, but also this was bad timing. I had to go to work in half an hour.
No. I'm talking about Undertale and Deltarune because what makes them so wonderful is how it always catches you off guard and like how it just plays with your expectations. Like Undertale, it's hard to talk about twists in Undertale because I don't want to ruin it for anyone. Sure, it might be the grace period for spoilers on Undertale might have
expired a little while ago, but
it might have expired, but I don't want to ruin it for everyone because it's so wonderful when like you go in blind and just completely get caught off guard.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I was like trying to kind of skirt around the topic in the summary. Like I knew I needed to say it, but I didn't want to say it because it's just so good.
Is there maybe a minor example that you could grant us to understand the level of spoilers, or is it all kind of interconnected?
It's all like kind of interconnected, but okay, I can, there's an example I can bring up. One from Undertale, one from Deltarune. From Undertale, there's, this moment where you're fighting the first boss, right? And like, no matter what, like, act of mercy you're, trying to do, nothing seems to quite work. So you can try, weakening her and then like sparing her. That's a thing you can do in the game, like fight them but not kill them and then and make them weaker and then try to use the spare mechanic.
Okay.
So, and like in this scenario, this boss Toriel, she's not a bad person. She's just trying to keep you from getting killed by other people. What most players tend to do is, like, when they find that nothing they do is working, they try to attack her, try to weaken her, and spare her, but, like, many people will accidentally kill her, because what you're supposed to do is just stall out the fight until a certain point, and then the fight will end. So most people will accidentally kill her, and many people were like, oh god, I killed her, I didn't mean to kill her, and they will, like, shut down the game, and like start from the last save and go into the fight again.
Okay.
And here's the crazy part. So when you actually do manage to like end the fight peacefully without killing her, you can the next room you go into, the villain of the game, Flowey, he will come up and like he will call you out on the fact that you killed her and then start the game over again. It's a game that like breaks the fourth.
That's so cool.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah, exactly. And he'll be like, oh, you may have
even if you did it right the first time?
If you did it right the first time, he'll be more like, okay, I see.
How do they even track that?
The game's no, that's the thing about the game. The game tracks a lot of what you do. It doesn't really forget neat. Like who you kill and who you spare at all. Like the true pacifist ending cannot be achieved if you kill even like one enemy, you know?
That's crazy. That takes dedication.
Yeah, so like if you kill Toriel but like start the game over to deal with her peacefully, Flowey will call you out and he'll be like, you may think that nobody remembers, but I know what you did. I wonder, can you keep on being peaceful, or will you let your frustration get the better of you? And
that's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's
funny.
Kind of like I think in the first Metal Gear Solid game, where Psycho Mantis would like fuck with you and read your game files.
Yeah,
and, like, you had to switch your port for which controller you had to put in.
Yeah, it's a lot of it's not dissimilar to that, where the game gets a lot of like mileage out of like calling out things from you that you wouldn't expect the game to call you out on.
Yeah. Like calling you out on your gamer behavior. You're trying to game the system, kinda.
Yeah, and okay, I'll be quick with the Deltarune example, but like at the beginning of Deltarune, it'll be like, okay, let's create a new character, and like, do all the character creation stuff. And like, it's super creepy because it'll use language like, let's create our vessel. Choose the head that you prefer. Choose the torso that you prefer. Choose the legs that you prefer. what is your favorite, or what is this vessel's favorite food? Soft, cold, sweet, salty, cold, pain.
Pain. My favorite flavor is pain.
Blood muffin.
What is your vessel's favorite blood type? A, B, AB, C, D.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, and like it'll ask you all these things, and you're like agonizing over it because like when you're first playing the game, you don't know what it's about. So it's like, what do I?
It's not character creation.
Yeah, and here's the thing: you create the character, and then the game's like, this character, this wonderful character you have created, will now be disposed of.
It's too perfect to live.
Nobody has any choices. You're going to be Chris.
That's really funny.
Your creation was too perfect to live. It cannot be. It cannot be.
Yeah. And I feel like that Deltarune example might have been too much of a spoiler, but you get the idea. It's like games are constantly
He's building the game. He's building off these really kind of crazy twists off people's expectations from playing games forever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I dig that.
In Undertale, you play as a character who falls down a hole and ends up in a place where a bunch of monsters have been sealed. And, like, these monsters aren't evil. They're actually quite nice, but for whatever reason, they've been sealed in this mountain. So now you're trying to find your way out. And in Deltarune, it's kind of a similar story, except those same monsters that you meet in Undertale are like people who live in the light world, and you end up in the dark world, where you meet completely different characters. Yeah, so that is Deltarune. So there you go.
Thank you, Chowder.
Yeah,
I really got to get into Undertale. I own it. I definitely need to play it. So now, Mr. Jeff, what have you
That's what
brought
they call
to the table
me.
this week?
Mr. Jeff. I am.
My name is Jeff.
My name is Jeff. My have brought Adventure Time. Adventure Time is a cartoon that ran on Cartoon Network from April 2010 till, only a few months ago. It just ended. Is created by Pendleton Ward, and the main premise of the show is it just follows main characters Jake the dog and Finn the human as they go on kind of like wacky sort of D&D style adventures.
Yeah, definitely. It's heavily kind of influenced by that, I think.
Especially early on, it's pretty influenced by D&D. Like, occasionally Finn will just make a comment about how he can't do this because it's against his alignment or some shit like that. And it's a lot of that, and it kind of evolves out of that as the show goes along. But it, definitely, I think, was one of the first shows to, really go full throttle on this sort of, comedy via, just random shit, form of comedy.
At least definitely the first one aimed at children.
Yeah, true. So, there's a lot of, wacky characters, and the show kind of, it sort of goes against a lot of narrative conventions. All of the, deeper underlying plot is usually revealed pretty anticlimactically, and the characters all barely care. So the show's, I always refer to it as a little bit abusive in that way, because, you watch the show, and then you get, a snippet of, an underlying significant plot, and you're like, I'm sorry, what was that? What did I just witness? And then it's not addressed again for another few seasons, and only really offhand.
I do love that about Adventure Time.
Yeah. So, that's the main reason that I'm talking about it today, is because, it uses a lot of, it's got a lot of, underlying lore behind it that is all significant and meaningful to the story, but it doesn't really give you that, up front. So you sort of get snippets of it from, here and there, and then you find out characters that you've been following for a long time have some more significance or a tragic backstory or something. The best example of this, I think, is the Ice King, who is starts off the show as just a stereotypical crazy evil wizard who kidnaps princesses, and Finn and Jake go and stop his evil doings. And then, you kind of learn throughout the course of it that he, basically has fucking magic Alzheimer's.
Yeah, that was a sad episode.
He used to be a human being, 1,000 years ago, and then he like he was like a college researcher or professor or something, and he like found this, ancient artifact, which was his crown, and then he put it on, and it started slowly turning him crazy and giving him ice powers, and he starts losing his memory, and he's got like this whole long tragic backstory, like the loss of his girlfriend. He ends up befriending another character who, like, as when she's a little girl during like the apocalypse.
Marceline.
Oh, by the way, there's an apocalypse.
Like the fact that he befriended that character is in and of itself a twist, because like when she was first introduced, we didn't know there was even a relation between her and Simon.
And then you're like, and then when you get to that reveal, you're like, I guess I never have seen Marceline and the Ice King in the same room together. Although there actually was one scene where they were. I noticed it while rewatching it, but it was just like an off mention. So it was like, you don't realize that there's like a connection between these characters until like you start to see them interact, because basically the whole thing is more or less from Finn's perspective, and Finn only knows these people as they relate to him, but not as how they relate to each other. So like as the series progresses, you kind of get more and more of that. So it does a lot of kind of like anticlimactic reveals, which go against sort of like traditional narrative, like climaxes and revealing the story in a sort of like more traditional sense. And I can get into that a little bit later, but that's the gist. It's a really fun time, and kind of the joy I get from the show is like you're watching it and you get snippets of little information, and then the rest of it is like what we would basically consider to be filler, which is the main show. So it's not filler, but like, you get a bunch of wacky adventures with snippets of significant plot, and then every once in a while it becomes significant. But yeah, that's basically Adventure Time in a nutshell. It's a great show. Go watch it. It's 10 seasons.
Awesome. Thank you. With all of our topics and domains summarized, let's move on to the discussion. So I got a few questions for you guys, and we also have some listener questions. So let's read those at the end.
Yeah, well, we will not forget about those.
So my question, I think it's for both of you, but Chowder, you can answer first.
Wow, let's see how it is.
Do you prefer something that kind of circumvents your expectations, or do you find? Because I know some people that actually find it very comforting that they know exactly where the story is going. On which side are you of that, like, kind of that dichotomy?
I'm of the belief that if it works, it works. I mean, like, if you do something that's a little more conventional, but like you do it really well and it's satisfying, I like it. And if you do something unexpected and that works, I know that's not exactly the greatest of answers, but like, it really is about execution at the end of the day. Because like, I've had plenty of stuff where it's like, does something unexpected, and it's like, whoa, that was amazing. But just as many times where it's like, wow, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
Like Lost.
Wow.
Sideways in Time. Fucking show should have been
Listen,
canceled.
I could go on about Lost for a while, but
like later seasons of Doctor Who were really like sacrifice quality for, oh, isn't this a twist?
Yeah.
Isn't that unexpected?
You nerds didn't see this coming, did you?
Yeah, I think to kind of jump in on this question, I agree with Chowder's general sentiment. I think that like twists and stuff like that can be really satisfying, but it has to be done kind of gracefully and thoughtfully. So like Adventure Time, I think like the twists and like the nature of Adventure Time is pretty natural, because the whole show is kind of surreal in that way. Whereas like I think that a lot of the sort of twists in The Good Place worked really well, but some of them were like, oh, okay, I feel a little bit deceived by receiving that information. Because like even just going back and watching the first episode, Eleanor, before the reveal that she is not supposed to be there and is a bad person, does not act like she does in the rest of the show. Even before she knows that she has to be hiding that she's a bad person. Like, she wakes up and goes and greets Michael politely before he like tells her what's up. Like the Eleanor that we see later in the series would not do that. So it feels like the show is just like hoping that you don't remember that the character of Eleanor changes halfway through the first episode.
Kind of argue against that. I would imagine if you woke up in a strange place and there was a very nicely dressed person
it's not about
was very
who
polite.
would. It's about Eleanor, because later her interactions that we see in flashbacks are like someone says something innocuous to her and she like basically verbally flips them off. Like,
well, you also
she's not polite, you know?
Michael has crafted this entry point to immediately throw them off balance.
Yeah, that's fair.
He's researched them and knows exactly how they're supposed to react.
But I'm not trying to just complain. Like that was one specific example for me. I think that most of the twists in the show are handled pretty well, and then even when you go back, you can, see how it led there. But like an example of that, of like a bad sort of twist, right, is like the one that I think of all the time is in Frozen, when it's like revealed that Hans is actually evil the whole time, even though in previous parts of the movies we see him acting kind around none of the people that he's trying to convince that he's a good guy. So it's just like is that a twist, or were you just deceiving us into thinking one way because like they didn't think of a nuanced way to do it? Whereas in like The Good Place, right, like you can retrospectively think like, I guess I haven't seen a scene with Michael by himself in the rest of the show, which makes his whole character reveal from actually being a good guy to an evil guy at the end make a lot of sense, because you're like, yeah, you didn't see it coming necessarily, but it's not because the show was like deceiving you. Well, it was deceiving you, but it was doing it more tactfully and like in a way that like doesn't ring false when you go and rewatch it. Whereas like some twists, I think, have that potential of like, when you go back, it's like, they just made that up last episode, didn't they? You know what I mean? Because it doesn't make sense when you like, it's a retcon that doesn't essentially like actually track for the rest of the series. Whereas like that twist in particular, when you go back, it does feel like it was probably planned from the start, as opposed to something that they decided a few episodes before the end of it.
And I think the nature of what makes a good twist is that the twist doesn't, or bolsters like the themes that the storyteller wants to convey.
Yeah.
Like in The Good Place, when it's revealed that everyone's actually in the bad place. The Good Place is about like what is right and what is wrong in a humorous, lighthearted manner. And when the twist happens, it gets you to do that. It gets you to question what is right and what is wrong. It is a goofy comedy about with like a light sprinkling of like ethics and philosophy.
Yeah.
And it turns into a goofy comedy with a light sprinkling of ethics and comedy or ethics and philosophy afterward. With Undertale, whenever a twist happens, it's all done to like bolster the themes of like choices have consequence. Your choices have consequences, and like you cannot expect to do anything without facing those consequences. And like even with Adventure Time, like when it does something unexpected, whether through anticlimax or actual climax, it's all done to like create this unexpected coming of age story for Finn and the other characters.
I'd say that like the main purpose of it in Adventure Time is like it takes this world which is very alien and very like not our real world, but it's like anticlimax is an attempt, and I think a successful one, to make it feel like the way things would be happening in the real world if you're, ignoring the fact of all these wacky characters, right? Because like at the end of the series, like we know more information about the world than like Finn and Jake do. There's a lot of stuff that they just plain never figure out, and some of it is kind of significant about like the nature of the world and like the history of that world and like how everything is operating. Like we get snippets of it, but we don't even get the full story, you know what I mean? So it's like kind of replicating in real life, where it's just like, there are going to be some mysteries that you just straight up never get the answers to. And Adventure Time does that in a way that's like, it's not frustrating in the way that like, it poses a question and then never answers it. It just gives you snippets of answers so that you can kind of like derive meaning from it. But then at the end of the day, like the characters never know, so why should you? Yeah, you'll never get the answers, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't enjoy the ride anyway.
Yeah, like Undertale is like that too, where you don't get the full story. Like there are a couple of characters that like you only get little bits of, so you never know
Mm-hmm.
what they are all about. It's very much left to you to form opinions about them, and it's kind of like Undertale's themes of like mercy and seeing the humanity in others being brought to the test, where you don't get to have the full story. What do you do even then,
Yeah. True. All right. Another question for you guys. I do feel there's a little disparity in amount of, how much you like the show between the two. I think Chowder, you like the show. Jeff, I think you are okay with the show. It's not your favorite.
I'll let my opinions out more in the ratings.
Yeah, but so I'm going to touch on something because you, Jeff, you brought up a little bit. Do you think the twist? Both of you, do you think the twist was earned?
I think it was very earned. Yeah.
Jeff doesn't think so. He doesn't.
I'm trying to recognize my bias here because I did know going in that there was going to be a twist. So my mind, I think, was kind of thinking the whole time, this is not as it seems. And I cannot say whether or not I would have been thinking that had I not known that there was going to be a twist. Because when I knew that there was going to be a twist, one of the first ones I thought of was, oh, this is actually the bad place. I didn't know quite to the extent that was. I didn't realize that all of the other characters were fake, basically. Right? I didn't know it was going to be just the four of them. But that was one of my first suspicions upon knowing that there was a twist, is that some things don't quite add up. And I don't think it's lazy writing on their part. So I'm thinking this might not be exactly what they're telling us it is. Because what are the odds that that in one particular town, or what do they call it?
They call them neighborhoods.
Neighborhood. Yeah, in one particular neighborhood, they fucked up 2 entries of a neighborhood of 50 people. So I was thinking what the fuck are the odds of that? So I'm thinking
the thought of maybe this is the bad place came to my mind as well when I was watching the first season. But the thing is, I didn't want to believe it because I really liked I really liked Michael, and
so delightful.
When it turned out he was a demon all along who was torturing everybody, it's I got this sense of betrayal. Michael,
Ted Danson, what did you do to me?
I believed in you.
But see, that's the thing too, is that that's the twist kind of I had that same feeling, but it sort of left a bad aftertaste for me because Michael was my favorite part about the show, and all of his charming, bumblefuckery, and then to find out that was all fake was kind of all right.
It's not necessarily fake, but
I don't know.
No, his bumblefuckery, his politeness, his coolness, his niceties, they aren't really fake. Because you haven't seen the second season, because he continues to be that same person, but it's just more outward with his intentions. He's always
Jeff, all I'm gonna say is watch the second season. I think you'll still continue to like his character, the character of Michael.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I guess what I'm saying is for me, it felt I was I thought of that as a potential twist, and then when it got to be that twist, I was oh, that one. But Michael is so fun, that was my initial reaction to
disappointment.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that. I mean, my reaction was, oh no, but Michael, I like Michael, and that I don't know, betrayal is of great feeling because it's so rare for a show to make you just feel something so strongly,
I guess I don't know,
even if it's a negative emotion that we'd consider what we'd consider a negative emotion in real life, the ability for a show to make you just feel betrayed or let down by a character is pretty fucking good.
People, the perception of the characters change a lot. But leading to my next question, so there is the main cast is 6 people. You have Michael, who's the quote unquote architect. You have Janet, who is the metaphysical equivalent of Google and Amazon mixed together, kind of. You have
Janet's
Eleanor.
a great fucking character.
Yeah.
She got even better in the second season.
She's so good. Then you have Eleanor, you have
Chidi.
You have Chidi, you have Tahani, and then you have...
You got Chidi, Anna Kendrick.
Yeah. And then you have John Yu / Jason. Jason. Each one of them kind of fills a different spot. So you have Michael, who's this kind of traitorous... even that aspect, it's set up almost towards a point of like one is always lying, one is always telling the truth. So Janet cannot lie by definition, and Michael always lies by definition because otherwise to tell the truth would expose what he is doing.
Right.
So that there's a cool dynamic there. You have Eleanor, who is supposed to be like the every kind of person, except maybe tilted more chaotic, awful than
like
usual.
She's pretty awful.
No, that's what I'm saying. A tad bit more chaotic, awful.
Like the best way to put it is she's not out and out evil, but she's a douche.
She's a definite douche.
Her main problem is that she is
to risk getting a little bit political here. I'm pretty suspicious that her character is derived a lot from Tommy Lauren because she feels that, like her.
I don't feel that at all. She's not racist. She's not racist. She's not like a Trumpist. They don't make her out to be like a Trump supporter or anything like that. She's just uncaring of other people's thoughts and emotions is really what it comes out to be. She's 100% self-serving.
I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure the term snowflake was used at least once.
No, I don't think so. I don't bite on that.
Is it just because she's a blonde woman?
Yeah. No, it's not because she's a blonde woman.
Let's not get crazy with it. And then there's Chidi, who is the morality ethics professor.
Yeah.
He's kind of plays the conscious of the group. He's always thinking of the morality angles of everything they're doing and trying to teach these people to do good.
Yeah.
You have Tahani, who is kind of this...
She's done a lot of good things in her life, but not necessarily for the right reasons.
Yeah, she hasn't done anything good in her life for the right reason.
She's a socialite who does a lot of charity work and philanthropy, but ultimately...
But a lot of it's for image.
It was ultimately to look good in front of other people, so...
Yeah, she wanted to impress her parents, she wanted to get back at her sister, she doesn't want... she just wants to be number one, is kind of what it comes out to be. All the good things she has done was really for herself. So that's the reason she's in the bad place. She's very selfish. Chidi's reason for being in the bad place is that by being such a moral particularist...
Indecisive.
His indecisiveness caused pain to his friends.
If we have to give a reason for Chidi being in the bad place, that was not the one that I was thinking. Because I had that when I was having the suspicion,
that is why
I kept trying to think of why all the characters should be in the bad place. And when they said that was the reason that Chidi was there.
His personal selfishness.
Yeah.
His personal selfishness and the way he treats morality and ethics causes pain to everybody around him.
I was a little bit surprised that, upon the revelation that this was the bad place, no one brought up the fact that Chidi and what's her name? Tahani were really ready to, throw their friends into hell. No one fucking brought that up. I was expecting the reveal for it to be in bad place having a lot to do with the fact that these people were really ready to characterize others as either good or bad. And in my mind, that is bad.
Yeah, that's why they're in the bad place. But
that's never brought up, is it?
It doesn't have to be brought up. They are showing their true colors in that. I mean, the show does a pretty good job of not hand-holding you and explaining every single one of these people's flaws.
Yeah.
I mean,
but it
by
explains
definition,
enough of them that every single one that isn't explained feels like a bit of an oversight. I don't know.
I don't think so. I think it leaves a lot of it up to you kind of watching and learning and seeing what they do. They don't, their main flaws they bring up. So Eleanor, she's uncaring of other people's thoughts and emotions. Jason is just a complete
he's a fucking idiot
who has no moral compass whatsoever.
Jason's big problem is that he has no impulse control.
Zero impulse control.
Whatever he wants, he's goes
all
for it. Yeah.
And he doesn't think about how it affects others at all.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think it does a pretty good job of showing that in both you just did that thing that was bad, and also showing you just how they act when they're around other people. If you look in the background, Jason is almost always never paying attention. He's always doing something in the background, playing with his hands.
Jason.
If there's something he can fiddle with in the background, that's what he does. While Eleanor will look you straight in the face and listen to everything you have to say, but she won't be listening to anything that does not specifically mention her. And they kind of carried that through into the show.
The Jason twist was probably my favorite in the show, because
John used twist.
They thought that he was a holy Tibetan monk named Jianyu, right? And then
healing powers.
In the fourth episode or something, he confronts Eleanor by sending him a note that's saying oh, you don't belong here. And then they meet up at the end of the episode, and he's like, I know who you are. And this is the first time we heard him speak through the entire episode, because he was had a vow of silence, and she's just oh shit, and then he's just I don't belong here either. He starts. He's just like, my name's not Chianu, it's Jason, and it turns out he's just
Florida.
like a fucking from Floridian
From Jacksonville,
DJ.
Florida. And everybody thinks I'm Chinese, and that's racist. I'm Filipino.
Yeah, he's a DJ from Florida, which honestly,
instant bad place.
You deserve to go to hell for that.
Yeah, but I think it does I think in general the show does a really good job of kind of demonstrating their mainstream flaws and showing them on different levels of why they kind of don't deserve to be in the good place for various reasons, and through flashbacks and through how they act in the good place when the pressure is turned up. I think the last episode when they're trying to decide who should go to the bad place is a really good indicator of the fact that none of them really belong in the good place. They're all willing to throw each other under the bus to a certain extent.
Well, except for like Eleanor, who's the character who grows throughout the series, really, because like she starts off pretty god awful. Well, I mean, I guess she's never that awful in the bad place, but when you see her flashback, she's like terrible.
Yeah. It does a really good point of making it show that she is capable of being a good person if she puts in an iota of effort.
Yeah.
And I think it keeps that up throughout the rest of the seasons too. She's sometimes like the shining light of leading people.
Like, as Michael puts it, he expected Chidi to try to teach her ethics and how to be a good person. What he didn't expect was for Chidi to do such a good job at it.
Yeah.
Well, I hate to cut the discussion short because I think we're in a really good area of discussion, but we do have some listener questions.
Ooh.
Maybe if we have some extra time after this, we can cut into some other stuff. So we have 3 listener questions.
Oh boy.
The first one is from my beautiful and lovely girlfriend, Jasmine Baker. And it is, do you think a show like this alienates any of its viewers because of the religious concept of heaven and hell?
I think if anything, it would be alienating towards super religious people, not because it definitely takes it separates itself, I think, from like the religious aspects of it. And instead of it being like, oh, sins and virtues, it just brings it down to like everyday douchiness and everyday like kind acts. So if anything, I think that it would be alienating towards like people who are super religious because like it's kind of removing the like perhaps values that they had been grown up to think of as good and bad. But I don't even think that.
I'm not even sure. Because I'm religious, I'm a Muslim, but I didn't really have a problem with the good place. I guess. I mean, I guess
abstract enough that it's not insulting.
Yeah, exactly.
And it does make a kind of point being like, it's not, just one religion was wrong. All of them are wrong. They all got about 5% right. Everybody kind of fucked up. No, it's too big and too wonderful and beautiful and mysterious for any one person to really understand.
Yeah, and I don't think that it doesn't really take that many jabs at religion where it seems like the premise of it easily could, you know?
I do believe that. Yeah, they avoid that fight.
Pretty much the good place just sidesteps the whole religion thing altogether. It doesn't insult it, it doesn't compliment it, it's just not a thing. It's not what it wants to focus. It's not what the good place wants to focus on.
Yeah.
All right, so second question. This is from Abby Harvey, and the original question was quite long and had spoilers for later seasons because I think she's almost up to date on season 3. So I've culled it down a little bit so it's non-spoilery. So it's kind of she has 2 questions, but this first question kind of has 2 parts. What do you think the world was like after they died? Was the world a better place without them?
Without Eleanor? Yeah, definitely.
Well, just without any of them, without the 4.
I haven't seen season 3. I wouldn't know. I honestly wouldn't know.
Well, I'm just thinking, generally speaking, if you think they deserve to be in the bad place, that kind of means that the world would be better off without. That's maybe a morality question. Yeah.
My take on the characters, I think that the way that we saw Eleanor and Jason acting in life, I think that the world probably was better off without them. I'm not totally sold on Tahani and Chidi, though. I think that Chidi might be a bit more neutral, but a lot of Tahani's stuff, like, she added a lot of good to the world. But so I think that, like, her death means that, like, not all these charitable things might have necessarily still been happening, regardless of her personal motivations. Mm. I don't think that necessarily speaks to whether or not she was a good person, but I don't think that the world was necessarily better off without her. And Chidi, I don't know, like, he meant well, so I don't necessarily agree that all of his, like, indecisiveness should have landed him there, but
Well, the thing about Chidi is, while he hasn't done like any extreme bad thing, his constant indecisiveness has basically made it so that he hasn't really had much effect upon the world. So
yeah,
really the only impact he's left is the pain in the ass he was to the people around him.
Yeah, so those characters are kind of foils of each other in the sense that, like, Chidi generally had pretty good motivation, but because of his indecisiveness was kind of a pain to people, whereas Tahani had bad motivation, but she actually was, putting good into the world because of it. So I don't know. That's the, like, in the specific way that question is phrased, I would say that the world is probably not a better place sans Tahani, because, like, she was actually being, philanthropic and putting good out into the world.
I think the question kind of brings up an interesting kind of point of view for each character. So you can kind of look as Eleanor as someone that actively avoids doing the right thing consciously. Jason is somebody that's actively not doing the right thing unconsciously. He's too dumb to really give it thought. Chidi does the wrong thing because he thinks maybe you could say he as a morality professor teaching people morality, he's doing a greater net good for the world at large, but on a personal level, he's destroying his friends to some extent with his indecision.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but then, even then, as we see from his, incredibly long essay and, comments that suggest that his students don't really pay attention to him, that his time as a morality professor
was maybe wasted.
Was squandered.
Wasn't quite fruitful, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think Tahani's is, the more complicated one, because outwardly she's doing so much good for the world, creating billions, but
she's kind of an asshole.
For the wrong reason.
Yeah.
And it seems like she's only really hurting herself.
Yeah, she couldn't give a damn about the people she's helping, but she is still helping them.
But she's still helping them. She seems to have a lot of friends. She doesn't seem to be a destructive person with friendships like, say, Chidi is. So it seems like her issue is that she's just doing it for the wrong reasons and more or less hurting herself with her own self-doubt and indecision and stuff like that.
And I think that the show kind of gets into, Chidi kind of lays out the two different, I don't remember exactly what each of them are called, and I definitely learned them in high school at one point, but the two different schools of thought on ethics, right, which are the outcome versus the motivation, right? And I think that the four of them kind of fall on
the square of that feature. They kind of
exactly.
end on different spectrum.
Whereas Jason doesn't have any, has a neutral motivation and a negative outcome. And Eleanor has a negative, I think, motivation and a negative outcome. And Tahani has a negative motivation and a
positive outcome.
And Chidi has a positive motivation and a neutral negative outcome. So
but
it's
nobody has a positive motivation and a positive outcome.
So, of course not. They're in hell.
Place.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, we got one more question.
All right,
this one's a little bit more. This is kind of fun. This is also from Abby Harvey. What would your frozen yogurt shop be? More specifically, what is the food you really don't like, but don't really hate, but definitely wouldn't want to eat every day? And that's kind of an inside joke for The Good Place. Every restaurant is a frozen yogurt place. The most medium and mediocre of foods.
Oh, geez.
I
What would your frozen yogurt shop be?
I'm going to give this one to Chowder first. I got to think about this.
Okay, I got it. I think my frozen yogurt shot would be splurging on something, some material possession that feels nice in the moment, but
makes you motherfucker's getting real metaphysical. I was just thinking of food.
but racks you with guilt. But racks you with guilt afterwards because you spent money that you shouldn't have spent. Yeah,
all right.
Remember,
I was just gonna say chicken.
Chicken. Yeah, but chicken's so good though.
Well,
chicken
I mean,
delicious.
for you maybe. I'm just I'm kind of neutral on chicken. I like chicken sometimes, but if I had to eat it every day, I think I'd really fucking hate chicken.
Oh boy.
Whereas other things like a grilled cheese sandwich, if I had to eat a grilled cheese sandwich every day, it would take me a lot longer to get sick of it.
No, because in The Good Place, there's a running joke that there are flavors for concepts that shouldn't really be a flavor,
yeah.
Like a full cell phone battery.
Yeah,
the feeling
exactly.
Of having a full cell phone battery. All right, so I think we're just a little bit over time on our discussion section, so I think it's a good time to kind of move on a little bit.
Let's do it.
So if you want to have your own questions read, we had a couple this time, which was really great, or a question or comment read on the show, we make weekly posts on Facebook and Twitter where you can comment and reply, and we'll be sure to talk about it. So if you put it out there, we will definitely listen and we will definitely talk about it. So I think it's about time to move on to the most dreaded of rating sections. Thank you guys for
a true bad place.
Good discussion. Uppercase good.
We had a net positive discussion.
Yeah, net positive. And we're going to begin. Each one of our representatives is going to rate the topic on a scale of 1 to 5 cactuses.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
I don't.
So it's a reference to a part in the story where they turn off Janet, who is the Google of the good place.
Oh, right.
And when she comes
cacti,
back, she just can't
cacti,
stop handing
okay?
Michael cactuses.
Cacti. You're killing me.
1 to 5 cacti.
Every time you say cactuses, that takes a point off of your ability to go to the good place.
Dude, I'm never going to the good place that's set up like that. I curse all the time. I do dumb things first. I mean, I got Colin to call the Oscar Mayer Wiener hotline and threaten to burn down their factory. I'm never going to the good place.
What the fuck?
You'll hear it next week on the Common Briefing program. Or you've heard it 2 weeks ago.
The things white people can get away with.
Yeah, you're right.
I can't do that. I can't do that. The fucking government would be on my ass if I did that.
True facts.
We are both maybe going to get our privilege checked very soon. We'll see what happens.
Oh god, I fucking hope so. If you're threatening to burn down hot dogs.
They made a hotline because they declared hot dogs are sandwiches.
A hot
and
dog
they made
line?
a hotline for people to yell into the wind about it and complain. So, for whatever reason,
I see.
during the podcast, we decided to call.
That's very different than like calling them up directly and threatening to burn them down.
Yeah, it wasn't a person on the other end. It was an answering machine. I'm sure it goes straight into the delete file, but it does make me very happy that there is a recording of Colin threatening violence to a wiener factory somewhere in Oscar Mayer's mainframe. But yeah, so let's go with you first, Chowder. How would you rate The Good Place?
I would rate it 5 cactuses out of 5 cacti.
Hell yeah. Alright, what about you, Jeff? I feel like it's probably going to be a little less.
It is a little bit less, yeah. I would say that The Good Place gets a solid 3 out of 5 cacti for me. There was a lot I liked about it, and I did have an enjoyable time watching it. It was charming, but at the end of the day, I think that, I don't know. Not all of it totally did it for me. Like some of the stuff just like, for me at least, broached on being really clever, but didn't quite get there, whereas other parts did. So it is a net positive.
We get it. You're so smart.
Fuck you.
It broached on clever.
Yeah, I really liked it. I thought it was really clever. I really liked all the philosophical
Chowder,
discussions.
it broached on clever. Get it right.
I'm sorry for having opinions.
You can tell I like the show.
Yeah. I really like the philosophical stuff they get into, and I really like season 2. I know I can't talk about it because Jeff hasn't seen it, but
I'll watch it.
I really enjoyed it. I think.
Yeah. I don't know. Like the philosophical things, like I liked all the parts with the philosophical stuff, but I do kind of feel like it could have gone further into that and gotten a bit more in depth, because I felt that it stayed a little bit surface level with its philosophical, tinkering, and I personally would have liked to see it go further into that aspect of it, but anyway.
I mean, ultimately, it does have to
be to make it interesting, you have to kind of tone it down.
Yeah, ultimately, it does have to be for general audiences, and, at the end of the day, Jeff, you and I, we took, fucking philosophy classes in high school, so...
I didn't take any philosophy class in high school.
No, that's basically
besides
what
theory of knowledge, yeah, that's true.
Theory of knowledge, that's basically what theory of knowledge was, yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. Anyway, but I liked it. I did like it. Just not my favorite thing.
I'm glad that you both enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it, and I thought it would be something very fun and interesting, because if I wasn't going to be an engineering major in college, I was probably going to be a philosophy major, and I'm definitely probably a little more financially stable because of that, but it was planned.
That's a jab at Austin Liebers right there. Have fun, Liebs.
Yeah, have fun, nerd. Were you gonna do deontology? Was it deontology? That's one of them. You gonna deontology at me, bro? Gonna get your moral particularism around here?
I mean, dude, that's just absurdist.
God damn it.
Can't do that, alright?
You can't. Alright, so next...
Every pun you make pushes you closer to the bad place, Chowder. But also somehow to the good place.
Then I will burn in hell.
I'm going to give the Gold Star Student Award. And for this one... for the person that I think that really got philosophical in this episode, that really brought it to a new level, and it's going to be the Golden Janet Award.
Yes! Janet.
The Golden Janet. And I think...
Damn it, Janet.
And this isn't a stab at Jeff, but it's Chowder.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think his enthusiasm leaked through a lot. And he was, and also he really brought to light a subject that I liked. I own Undertale. I've yet to play it, and now I actually really want to play it because now I know more about it. And how it's gonna like mess with my expectations and make me work for the kind of ending I want. Congratulations. Do you have any words? Do you have a small speech prepared?
Yeah, I do. Janet, get me some jalapeno poppers, please.
Ding.
Yay.
Those are cacti.
Oh, it's just a cactus.
Right. But yeah, thank you guys. Thank you guys for the great discussion. I had a lot of fun with this.
Yeah, it was fun.
All right. So that about wraps it up. Thank you guys for listening to the Comic Geek Program. I was your host, Ryan Mossbarger, and you can find me at Ryan_MOSSB on Twitter. And again, I've been joined by...
Yo, I'm Taimul Chaudhary, or Chowder, whichever you prefer. You can find me at Twitter, on Twitter, at Taimul Chaudhary.
I'm at Twitter.
Chowder lives in the Twitter.
I am the tweet.
Jeff?
Oh, sorry, that was your whole spiel. Okay, yeah, hi, my name is Jeff. You can find me on Instagram. Sorry, you can find me at Instagram at things I wish existed, and there's a dot between each word. I put some art stuff up on there occasionally.
Nice. And then next week, our episode, I believe it's going to be hosted by you, Jeff, right?
Yeah, it is.
What's the next topic?
We're going to be talking about toys and media that is influenced by the production of toys. And
like in Transformers?
Yeah, like with Transformers. We're going to be talking about Transformers. And for this, I'm having them, we're not directly, like super directly talking about it, but what I'm having them watch is, I think it's season 2, episode 3 of the Netflix documentary series, The Toys That Made Us. It's the one that's about Transformers.
Nice.
Whichever episode that is. I think it's season 2, episode 3, but...
Editor's note, it's season 2, episode 2.
It's a really, really fun time. Would recommend checking that out. It's just interesting
Sounds like it's
stuff.
going to be a really interesting episode.
Hope so.
Be sure to tune in next Friday, December 7th. And follow us on Facebook or Twitter at Geeking Program. Any engagement, such as sharing a post, tagging us, or tweeting #CGP, will enter you into a raffle where you get to pick a new future topic. Reviewing us on Apple Podcasts is critical in helping and growing our show, and we'll read new reviews live on air. Anyway, thanks for listening, subscribing, sharing everything, and we're going to talk to you guys next week. Thank you so much for being here, guys. I really appreciate the discussion.
Yeah, you listening to this podcast gives you a couple points towards going to the good place, but the real good place, not the one that the show takes place in.
Subscribing and rating us gives you like 1,000,000 points.
It's true. It's actually the most ethical thing you can do on this planet. Like, if you have a choice between curing world hunger and listening to an episode of our podcast and rating on an Apple Podcasts, then I think you know which one is really going to help you out in the long run when it comes to going up there, upstairs or downstairs. You know what I'm saying?
Know what I'm saying? All right. Thank you, guys.
That's
Bye.
all.
Bye.
This episode of the Common Geeking Program is hosted by Ryan Mossbarger, joined by Taimul Chaudhary and Jeff Leavitt. This episode is sponsored by Colin and Jeff actually agreeing on something but not being in the same episode to suss it out. The podcast is created and produced by Colin Ketchen and Jeff Leavitt, with this episode edited by me, Colin Ketchen, featuring original music also by me. Next week, we're talking about the toys that made us and Transformers. There's going to be a little bit of fun stuff sprinkled in there, so stay tuned for that. We will see you next week, and thank you for listening to this.
If there are no other further things, let's slaughter this pig.
I can't. I'm Muslim. I cannot eat pork.
You don't have to eat it. You just have to kill it.
We just gotta
That's
kill
okay,
it.
right?
Oh, okay. I'm fine with killing it.
Killing. Oh, I didn't. Let's cook this chicken then.
Yeah.
All right.
Chicken isn't vegan?